Hi guys, welcome to Cryptocurrency in Japan. So today I did an interview with this guy who's trying to build a nation on the sea. It's not that he's Japanese or this project is from Japan, but I met him at Tokyo Bitcoin Meetup and I thought, this is something I can share and also cool. Before I move to interview, I want to give you a little bit of background because I wasn't so familiar with what they're doing. Some people who are interested in building a nation are seems to know a lot about it, but I'm not building nation experts. So let's look at this website. This is blue-frontiers.com. This is their website. As you can see, there's a sea and island-ish houses are floating on the sea. And they're doing token sale soon. I'm not gonna try to sell you tokens. Don't worry. I just simply thought it's something interesting to share. And this is actual. So this project actually comes from a different project called Seasteading Institute. It's a little bit hard to say. It's this. So here it is. Seasteading Institute is a non-profit think tank working to make floating societies a reality. It's our belief that humanity needs to start looking to the oceans for innovative solutions to the world's most pressing problems: rising sea levels, overpopulation, poor governance, and more. Okay, it's interesting. It was founded in 2008. It's about 10 years ago by Patrick Friedman and Peter Thiel. Let's read this. So, Seasteading Institute was founded in 2008 by activist, software engineer, and political economic theorist Patrick Friedman. He is a grandson of Nobel Prize-winning economist called Milton Friedman, and technology entrepreneur, investor, and philanthropist Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, I think most of you know him as the founder of PayPal. Okay, and I think we have a little bit of knowledge about Blue Frontiers and seasteading, so let's move to more fun part. Hey guys, welcome to Cryptocurrency in Japan. So today I have a guest. He's Randy from Blue Frontier,
Blue Frontiers.
and this is Junya.
Yeah.
And he's a Japanese influencer in cryptocurrency community. So today I want to ask a little bit question about Blue Frontiers project and do a little bit of discussion. So I think we should start with basic idea of what you're doing and since when you've been doing it.
Sure. So my company is called Blue Frontiers, but people who have been long involved in the cryptocurrency space probably know about seasteading, and that's like the word homesteading, but at sea. So before Blue Frontiers, I ran the Seasteading Institute, which is a think tank out of California, originally founded by Patrick Friedman and Peter Thiel. And we founded in 2008, about the same time that Bitcoin came into existence. And we've been frequenting blockchain and Bitcoin conferences since about 2011, 2012. About a year ago, we signed an agreement with the government of French Polynesia and launched this new company, Blue Frontiers. So our project is trying to decentralize governance by creating floating islands with their own governments where people can freely choose to voluntarily participate in the society. And when all of our homes are floating, they can easily detach and they have the power of what we call exit. So instead of being in a governance situation where you're locked in because the government owns your land, you have the opportunity to travel elsewhere, and that way it would make a marketplace for governments, and they would compete to have us as customers. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more to that, but we can try to start there.
Okay. So I've heard now you're preparing to build the island. So where are you going to build?
So we want to build an island, and a likely candidate is in the South Pacific. So we put a lot of effort into going there, although we're willing to go elsewhere, and we want to hedge our bets. And we always saw the French Polynesia, which is 3 hours south of Hawaii by plane, as the first place. and then we see a world where there's lots of floating islands.
Okay.
In the 20-year horizon, we imagine these floating islands being able to be out in the open ocean without any other governments around, and you could fully be an independent nation of yourself. In the near term, what we're doing is we're implementing a special economic zone within the territorial waters of the host nation. So what we're asking for is you allow us to put our islands in protected waters where we don't have to worry about hurricanes and big waves, and we have access to an existing supply chain, which would make it like a nice baby step and easier for us to get started. And in exchange for that, we bring jobs and indirect benefits and brilliant people who want to participate in the project. And we ask that you don't tax us, that we have the control over the power of the purse, and that we get other liberties that may not be found elsewhere. So enough to make it novel and interesting as a first step. And one of the reasons we want to do this is that going out to the open ocean as a first step is just very expensive. It's possible, but we can build a floating village for 300 people for maybe $60 million US. That'd be about $200,000 per person on average. Whereas if we were to try to go out and do that in the open seas, I would multiply that by 4 times, and that doesn't take into account the supply chain issues.
That is a lot of money.
Yeah. But very interesting. So how do you timeline? Is that plan in next couple of years, or
what's the timeline for our project? So right now we're actually launching a token sale. We're doing our own ICO, and we will have that public sale in May.
Okay.
We're trying to raise between $5 to $15 million worth of money, which we will be using for more engineering and more diplomacy and administrative stuff to get this, what we're calling a C zone, a special economic zone at sea, so a C zone. And we anticipate being able to secure a regulatory package with one of our host nations by the end of this year. So by the end of 2018, we would have a C zone place, and meanwhile we've done enough engineering planning and also manufacturing planning, etc., that we could soon after that start building. And we think that it would probably take us about 3 years to build out the village. Additionally, though, one of our ideas that we would likely implement is that if we get a C zone and we have a neighboring piece of land that is available to us, that we could quite immediately set up a base camp, a beachhead. So we would move into that space using pretty low-cost housing situations, like whether it's in the U.S. we have this word called glamping. Do you know this word?
It's in Japan too.
Okay, right. So glamour camping. So we could set up really nice camp as a first place for people to start coming and visiting and getting used to it, and then we would build out into the ocean or into the lagoon or body of water.
Yeah.
I saw the pictures on your website. There's like small units, and then you move around if you wanted to.
Right.
On the sea.
Yeah. So this does, you really have to come to blue-frontiers.com and look at the pictures in order to know what we're talking about. Maybe you'll edit a picture in or something. But everything is designed to be modular. It's designed to float and be modular, and to be able to be disconnected and moved elsewhere so that you can disassemble and reassemble at will, and that we can grow. So if we start with 300 people and more people want to come, then we can keep adding them on. And if eventually, we're thousands of people, but we're not happy as thousands of people, we can split up. And we, one of the other major goals of the project is there's those of us who are attracted to seasteading because we want to try innovative new governments. There's also millions of people who are threatened by rising sea levels, and they're going to lose their houses, and they're going to become climate refugees. And like out in the Pacific Ocean, 30% of the islands are going to disappear, and these people have to go someplace. And if we can build floating islands, if we can manufacture them cheaper than what I was talking about before, these people could stay tethered to the lands they have now, and they could just kind of rise and fall as the seas rise. So we hope to be able to create a seasteading industry. So what we're doing now is just the beginning of something that we think will be a huge industry.
It's very interesting. So people who are concerned about environment are interested in seasteading, and also like people who want like more freedom is interested. So like you're attracting all kinds of people.
Right, we're a big tent organization, and those are the two main prongs of the project. Is creating innovative space for governance, and creating an opportunity for environmental resilience. And we put a lot of effort into that second one as well. I mean, we're very concerned that we believe that when the ocean is your home, you're going to take better care of it than when the ocean is something that's far away and people have no problem just throwing their plastics in it. So we think that we need to have better healthy seas, and there's a lot of opportunity through seasteading to take care of the ocean around you, to generate power from the ocean, to raise food from the ocean in a sustainable way that doesn't harm the ocean. And these are all pillars of our project.
That's very interesting. So, as she said, broad libertarian interested in that project, and their other project it's something like create a new country or something. So, but it must be really difficult. So, what is the most difficult thing, and so what have you done in these 7 years? So you joined that project.
So, there's a spectrum of people who are interested in this micronation idea, and there's been many of people who've come before us who have tried to go and create brand new nations at sea. We're not the first ones to think of it. What we're doing differently is trying to apply a very pragmatic approach, where it's not saying, we're not giving the middle finger to the government and just running away and then trying to magically, in front of us there's a project called Freedom Ship that had a price tag of $10 billion, and they were going to build a giant cruise ship that was its own independent nation with an airport on top of it, and they're just going to sail on the world. But it's not easy to find $10 billion. There's another guy that had gone out into a reef and just poured a bunch of sand on the reef and planted a flag, but he did it in the territorial waters of Tonga, which is a nation state. And then a few weeks later, the Tonga comes over and is like, "Hey, you're on our land. You can't do that." So we've are unique because we've gone to the government. We're willing to compromise for our, what we would want ideally in order to work with somebody. And I think that's an important step to be able to bring this forward. For those people who are not willing to compromise are not going to be able to find a solution.
We also saw recently Liberland announced that they are going to issue cryptocurrency for their territory. It's called Merit. Is your project different from?
Yeah, I mean we're in the same field. There's Liberland. Roger Ver is trying to do the free society idea. There's a group called the Startup Societies Foundation that kind of tracks these. There's a bunch of projects that are trying to take place down in Honduras, where they're using the government there has passed a legislative package that they changed the constitution to allow these things, but it's been slow going. So I have friends involved, and hopefully they'll be successful. Liberland's a really awesome idea, but what their challenge is they've gotten into a fight with these two different countries to try to say we want this body of water that nobody wants. Nobody wants the land, but they don't want Liberland to have it. It's absolutely crazy. They should totally be allowed to have it. But the approach they took was a little bit more adversarial. And I hope they're successful. I like those people. I got friends involved, so I wish them nothing but the best.
All right. So are you contacting with them sometimes?
I have not had direct contact with the head of the Liberland project, but my friends have, and I've had a lot of contact with other people who've gone there. One of my best friends, it was one of the first people to go to Liberland with them, and one of the first people to get arrested in Liberland. I actually think he got arrested twice, going, trespassing onto the property.
So, what is the motivation with this project?
The motivation?
Yeah, your motivation.
My motivation.
Your personally.
So personally, I am concerned about human systems. How we interact with one another. And I saw this project as an opportunity to be an example of how we could demonstrate better interactions. It concerns me how often humans resort to things like locking each other up in cages, or using warfare to get their way, and creating more and more and more laws when you can't even understand the laws to begin with. And I thought, I believe in good rule of law. I'm not a full-on anarchist of any means. I think that good rules of law create for wealthy prosperous people, but I don't think it should be done at the expense of other individuals. And so when I heard about the Seasteading project and was invited to participate in it, I got really excited about just the opportunity that we could go out and have little experiments. And one island, or a set of people together. When it's hundreds of people, it's not really going to work for a big city like Tokyo, where there's 13 million people. You can't translate what hundreds of people did to 13 million people. But when we become many thousands, we can start translating that. And when they break up and intersect, and somebody says, "I've really been wanting to try this kind of governance, let's try it." I think that there's things that aren't implemented in existing nations because it's too hard to do it. Like if we start a new nation, we can immediately out the gate say, we want to measure the happiness of the people who live here. And we want to use that happiness in a big data set to try to at least maximize satisfaction, right? And every day you could get a little ping on your iPhone, and you could how satisfied are you today? Oh, yes, no, 1 to 10, right? And then a big data, through AI, through big data, we could try to determine, well, people were happier when we had this set of policies than when we had this set of policies. Let's try to implement that. And and that's not going to happen in an existing nation right now.
I see. That's interesting, but I also see a little bit challenges. So if it's smaller, you can how do you say it? Maybe you can use any drug you want. But when it becomes bigger group, more trouble comes up, and you have to regulate it more in more strict ways.
Right. So, well, in the long vision of seasteading, people could choose to go to the islands, the seasteads that are regulated the way they want to regulate it. So, from what I understand, here in Japan, drug use is pretty much frowned upon. Nobody does as far as I understand. You come back to California, drug use is a very common thing. If we had, seasteads, 20 years from now out in the middle of the ocean, and people who were for drugs wanted to go live on the drug-using seasteads, and people who were against drugs go live on those, then you wouldn't have to have a situation. It'd be easier to separate in the society without forcing it on somebody. So those who want to do drugs, they can do drugs, and those who don't can have a place to go and feel safe away from it.
So first you will set up just free zone, but your project will focus to set up the government or create a country, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the long run, I would like to see, I'd like, one of the things that a phrase we use is let 1,000 nations bloom. So we do think that smaller is probably better. That, having a federation is one thing where, people can agree on things, that they can make it so it's easy to trade and to communicate across, smaller nations. But at the end of the, where I live in California, I don't like that I am governed by people all the way across the country in Washington, D.C. And the way they set up my system is I have 2 senators that represent 30 million people on every decision, right? There's no way, it's not possible. But if it's localized, and we're just mostly worried about my own little town, then I can actually have more influence and expect more I guess, something that's more representative of what I would like.
Okay.
And then in the seastead vision, if I don't get that,
Mm-hmm.
I sail to the one that I do like,
Mm-hmm.
and I take my home with me.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Next decade, so how many people do you expect to move to seastead?
Well, I mean, we have thousands of people who are interested
Mm-hmm.
in our project.
Mm-hmm.
How many of them want to be there year round? Especially if it's in a remote location, we'll find out. I don't think it'll be very hard to get if we're talking about wanting to have 300 people there year round,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's 100 that are there year round and 200 that are coming in and out, and a lot of location independent entrepreneurs. We have a giant network. Our company is already, there's 100 professionals working on the project who, I'm sure all of them want to at least be there sometime. And then as I travel the world, I meet people like yourselves who are like instantly,
Mm-hmm.
this is cool, I wish I had a spot. And you want to go, do you?
Yeah, I want to go.
Yeah. So what attracts you to the project? Like, why do you want to go live on a seastead with me?
So I have to say some complaining in government in here my country. So yes, but I think it's something libertarian country or something libertarian government or something. It could be some really competitors with regular government. It should be built.
Mm-hmm.
So I found a seastead project it's the first time. That was I think 2012. So that was really fascinating, and yeah, I like that idea.
Mm-hmm. And the idea is growing on you. Are you ready to come live on a seastead?
Gradually, I'm more interested in like how technology developed to live on the sea, and how you're gonna make rules that make everybody happy. I'm just like interested to see.
The technology of living at sea is really cool,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not far fetched. Actually, on my way here, I flew here from Seoul, and on the plane on Korean Airlines, I was pleasantly surprised to find that they're showing a documentary that features my company.
Okay.
It's called Marine City, the 21st Century Noah's Ark, and it focused on the environmental side. It focused on how, when rising seas come, floating islands, floating cities could be a solution to solving people's need for loss of land. But it also showed all the floating houses that already exist. And it's not, all we're doing is integrating technologies in a way that's never been integrated before. So we want our seastead to be sustainable. We don't want to pollute the lagoons that we're in. We want to use clean energy, be carbon neutral, all of that. But this stuff exists, and we think we can do it for relatively cheap. In major metropolises, the cost of land is the bulk of your housing cost, and when you're creating brand new land, you don't have to pay that price.
Interesting. I was imagining like living in one of the units, and then like, do I get sick because of the waves, or like how does sewers work, or
Right.
all that kind of infrastructure?
Well, and so the units are going to be stationed in places that have not a lot of wave action, and we're going to try to build for the wave action, and you'll feel yourself go up and down a little bit, but you get used to it, right? It's the kind of thing like your first day on a boat, you feel sick, and then after that, you get back on land, and you're like, oh, this land thing is weird. We had a meeting of our team in January as a 3-day meeting, and all we talked about was the toilets and manage the human waste, because it's a big issue. And I can't say that it's the area of expertise that I bring to the table and focus on a lot, but I was totally impressed with how these people are totally into like making sure that we can have a system that can create biofuels and doesn't pollute the things around us. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
So you will do token sales, right? So in this May. So can you a little bit explaining about that? What is the token use case? What is ICO model? So which blockchain do you use or something?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you for asking. Our token is called Seacoin. That's SEA coin. And you can find it at seacoin.global or just go to blue-frontiers.com. It'll be on the Ethereum blockchain. We're going to do an ERC20 token. And we're designing it as it's a payment token, it's a utility token. It's a currency for our ecosystem. So our company will commit that we will only sell our goods and services for this currency. And that way we can crowdfund now, and the people who hold the token will have access to what we're offering. And even long before we build out the islands, we'll have events and we'll have online platforms and places for them to spend this token. We're also putting measures in to try to protect the token holder. We will, what we raise and don't need to use immediately will be held in an escrow account in a diversified portfolio. If we fail, we can buy back the tokens with it. I don't expect to fail.
Okay.
We're limiting our raise to $15 million. That's our hard cap in May. Obviously, that's not enough to build the islands, but we don't want to take in more than we need right now. And what we'll do is we'll hold a portion of the tokens in reserve that we can release later based on certain milestones. Like when it's time to build, then we can start releasing tokens that way. It's really, we know that our idea is ambitious, and that people can think that we're crazy. So we want to really make sure that people understand that we put a lot of effort into being pragmatic and being serious, and we don't want people to think that we're doing something that's not that. So we think that our token design and all the mechanisms that we're putting in the token design are demonstrative of that policy.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting.
I think he's gonna buy a token.
I will talk to you later.
Okay, so it's about time.
Yeah,
So
Okay.
thank you, Randy.
Thank you for interviewing me. I appreciated this chance, and thanks for your time. We met last night at a Bitcoin meetup here in Tokyo randomly. I'm only here for 2 nights. I'm sad I have to leave tomorrow, and these two are great people. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.